Well, it's about 3:05, so I guess we can get started. So I'm just going to walk through, sort of as an administrator, what you would do to set up this uh, uh, security, I guess, rule for a particular group. So I have here in this window, I'm logged in as administrator, and over here I'm logged in as another user. And you can see I have access to no contacts right now. The contact model is set to private. So first thing that needs to be done is a field needs to be created. So we can go over to the object manager, go to account, and we want to create a new checkbox field. And this is for the athletics department. The only profile that really needs access to it is system administrator, because it's controlled at the system level. And we'll add it to the administrative layout here. So now we have this access athletics field, and what we need to do is set up a sharing rule that shares with the group based on that field. So there is a limit of 50 criteria-based sharing rules per object. So if you're trying to use a solution for more than that, it won't exactly work. So we'll select criteria here and choose the field that we just created. And we're going to share with the athletics group. And we'll set contact and account to read write. You were quick on feet with that. So now we have our field, our sharing rule. We can go ahead and create our affiliation security rule that controls the type of affiliation that needs to exist for this field to be evaluated to true. So here we want to put in the name of the field that we just created. Organizations, we're going to say the athletics department, and we'll call it a current student. So the security rule is created. Now, let's see here, I'll just go ahead and have this affiliation already set up. You could see that Bevo the 14th is a current student. And so now, if we go to his administrative account, you could see that Access Athletics is checked. And so if we go over here to the user's login, you can see we now have access to Bevo the 14th. If this affiliation down the road gets modified, let's go back to it. Let's say he's now a former student. You could see that this user no longer has access. And if we go to the administrative account, the checkbox is unchecked. Now, there's also another piece of functionality that's built into it called a VIP functionality. And say you have certain alumni that are, you don't want just anybody in that has access to alumni to have access to these people. Maybe they're super rich and famous. So let's mark Bevo the 14th as a VIP here, and we will go to our affiliation security rule. And let's change it to current or former. But he's marked as a VIP, so our user here still should not have access to him, and you can see he doesn't. But if we modify the affiliation security rule to override VIP, you could see that our user now has access. So that's really it. It's pretty simple. Does anybody have any questions?
So Kyle, just a quick question. This is Brian. The affiliation security rule is a custom object, right, which maps that specific field of the account, right? So what happens behind the scenes? Is there a trigger which goes and checks the sharing rule?
So you can see there's 3 triggers actually. One of them is on the account object, and that handles if an account is made VIP or the VIP checkbox is unchecked. There's one on the affiliation security rule object, which handles when rules are modified, and then there's one on the affiliation object, which performs the checking and the unchecking when affiliations are created or modified or deleted.
Okay, and these triggers, what do they do behind the scenes? So whenever an account is set up or something, they go and update the sharing rule. Is that all they do for those individual users?
So they update the checkbox that's on the administrative account, and then the sharing rule shares or unshares with groups of users based on that checkbox.
I see. And you also have an interesting use case where you also go by student status, right? Like, for example, in your affiliate security rule, which is your custom object, you have a student status. So let's say if I have a university and I want to add some other criteria for my affiliation security rule. So let's say I want to go by specific state or something, right? Or a zip code. What do? I just need to add that as custom field here, or do we need to make some code changes in the trigger to make it work?
No, you'd have to make some code changes. So it only looks at the standard fields that come on the affiliation object, which is primary, role, status, and I guess that's really and organization.
Okay, got it. So as long as those criteria are set, we could use your solution, right?
Right. And you can, if you did want to modify it to look at other custom fields, there's a method here in util affiliation security that checks whether or not an affiliation rule matches with an affiliation. And so you would just need to modify this method to add custom fields as part of the check. Also, it's worth mentioning the role and status don't have to be set. So if you wanted any role or any status, you could just leave these blank. You could see that it checks to see if it's blank before it goes through and looks at the affiliation.
Got it.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Kyle, this is Dave Perry. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Great presentation. I like what you've done. My question is around org-wide defaults. I know you're assuming private on account and contact, and of course the associated objects that are required. What's your thought if a customer is not willing or cannot turn those org-wide defaults private? How do you see this working or not working, I guess?
Well, if the org-wide defaults aren't set to private, then you have no security in the first place, really. So, I mean, that's really step number one if you want to have any kind of security on a account or contact within your org.
Right. Okay.
Anybody else?
Um, just another quick question. So let's say if they have a high volume data, right? There's already a HEDA set up. Let's say we're looking at 50,000 accounts already set up, big enterprise university. So in order to go about doing your solution, right? This one sharing rule, is there a mass update I need to do to all the accounts if I have to do that through that checkbox? I guess that is one thing. One time I have to do that, correct?
No, you don't. That's what the trigger on the security rule takes care of for you. So anytime you create a security rule, it'll go through and look at your whole database and check or uncheck whatever checkboxes it needs to.
Okay. Okay. And I'm assuming that would be bulkified, right? I mean, we won't hit any limits or anything like that, right?
We haven't run into anything. It's still possible that you'd hit a limit because it's not asynchronous. It's happening synchronously.
Right.
So, if you have 50,000 50,000 contacts and accounts, and you create a security rule, and now 50,000 of them are the checkboxes are gonna be checked, you'd hit your DML limit at that point. Or excuse me, you'd hit your query limit. You hit your DML limit at 10,000. So.
Yeah. So best practice would be to kind of split it up, do maybe a segment of it at a time, kind of work through it, kind of, right? That might be better.
Yeah.
Maybe 5,000 at a time. Okay. Got it. Cool, but very great solution, Carl.
Thanks. And if you want to contribute a bulkified version, be my guest.
That's what I was thinking.
This is Vadim. Great stuff, man.
Thanks.
Also, to answer Dave, to answer your question a little bit, I think when we were thinking through this, it was not just contact object that we were thinking about. We were actually thinking about setting this up as a way to control access to more than just contact. So if, obviously it would require code modifications, but if there's student records or other related objects that would need to be granted access to, we could still use the same framework to then modify that.
Thanks, Vadim. Yeah, definitely.
No, Vadim, I get that, and I'm on board with org-wide defaults being set to private. As you know, not all schools do that. Unfortunately, orgs are set up with what I call the ready, shoot, aim method, and so this creates a little bit of an issue potentially. Because what we have here is an app that's now controlling the org in security. Although, like I said, it should be set up that way anyway. But I'm thinking that that this is somewhat problematic for a school that's not implemented org-wide defaults on account and contacts. Kind of a discussion that we're currently having about maybe going to custom objects that are not affecting the entire org, but custom objects that could control security in another way that could be set to private, rather than taking an overarching look at changing the whole org on accounts and contacts. But again, I'm not disagreeing with this methodology. I'm just looking at the overall universe of universities and how they do security or don't do security.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the view from my current vantage point is very different from when we started doing this. So yeah, for sure. But it is a ways. I mean, the reason why we started down this path, right, Kyle, in the first place was because there wasn't an opportunity to do anything related with HEDA, right? So perhaps for any new deployments or transitions to HEDA, this might give some universities opportunity to not consider the ready, shoot, aim approach, but maybe turn that thing around a little bit.
Right, and I think the goal is to make it easier to make the switch to a private org-wide default model. Because at first, we had it set to public, and then we had to, we at first went through and we made checkboxes on the contact record and shared that way. But this was before HIDA was a thing. And then, when HIDA came out, this whole idea of affiliations came out. That's when we sort of had the idea to base the security off of contacts affiliations. Does anybody else have any questions?
One last question, guys. Maybe it's a Vadim or Khalil question. Is it okay I can download this and write a blog about this? Am I allowed? Do I need to kind of work with you guys on that? It's a great solution. I just want to make sure that everybody gets it. I want to write a blog post on it. Is that fine?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
All right. Well, if there are no other questions, I'll go ahead and end the meeting. And it is being recorded, so I'm going to post the link or upload the video and post the link on the post that I made in the Power of Us Hub.
Thank you very much, Cal. It's a great solution.
Yep,
Yeah,
thank
no
you,
problem.
Thank you so much. Very inspirational.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Y'all have a good one.